Yuri Bezmenov was a KGB operative in the Soviet Union who then left the Soviet Union and defected to Canada in 1970. He was born in 1939. He died shortly after the fall of the Soviet Union in 1933. And when he defected to the West, and specifically moved to Canada, he exposed what he calls the 4 steps of ideological subversion. And this was a campaign that the Soviet Union devised and implemented to do just that, to ideologically subvert and undermine the United States. And we in America are so unaware of this happening to us. Frankly, we were unaware of it then, and we are staggeringly unaware of it now. To the extent that we're aware of it now, we don't care, which is another whole can of worms, which, by the way, shows that this campaign has been so successful, because part of this campaign is that when you realize that this is happening to you, you're so jaded that it doesn't really matter to you. But I want to go through these 4 steps and show you what Yuri Bezmenov was talking about, because it is, you can't imagine how eerie it is and how much it shows what's going on right now in the United States. But first, Yuri Bezmenov talks about how he was engaged not so much in espionage, but something which he says is far more unpleasant, ideological subversion. And he says, quote, "This is seldom explained to people by your media because the media is part of the process." And that's why when you hear this whole idea of ideological subversion, I think there's this American instinct to be like, what? That's so crazy. We have a free and independent press here in the United States. We're America. We're the titan in the world. We can't be ideologically subverted by any country. But he's saying, no, the media is a part of the process, which is why you aren't so aware that it's happening. And so he said that in the Soviet Union, about 15% of these projects were funneled towards plans of espionage, to send spies into the United States, gather data, sort of like hardcore infiltration. But then he says that 85% of their efforts were in this category of ideological subversion or psychological warfare. And here's how he defines it. See if it sounds familiar. I have a feeling it will be eerily familiar. Quote, "What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite an abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country." I feel like that describes, I don't know, maybe 80% of people I've met. You encounter certain individuals, and this is really not said in a mean way. It's said perhaps in a judgmental way, but not in a mean way. But I will encounter people who are so brainwashed, and it is amazing how much information you can give them, and it will not undermine the brainwash. You can go to someone and talk to them about these, for instance, cash bail policies, and go, there's really a lot of evidence that they don't work and they lead to total bloodshed. Here on Timeless, we discussed this crazy story in Long Island where 4 people murdered 2 people, hacked up the body parts, dispersed the body parts. A girl walking to school happened upon a severed arm in front of her. And that's how this whole thing got discovered. And these individuals, they may have been charged with murder by now. I don't know. This was a week ago. But 2 to 3 weeks after these crimes, they were not charged with murder. They were charged with dismembering body parts and, concealment of a corpse. And remarkably, they were let off on supervised, what do they call it? Supervised release, because what they were charged with, dismembering body parts and, dispersing a corpse, those were not cash bail eligible policy or crimes under the New York State's new cash bail policies. And literally the DA of Long Island said, we cannot bring forth, my prosecutors can't keep them in jail because these crimes that they've been charged with are not cash bail eligible. It's crazy. Anyway, you can bring examples like that, which are so obviously insane and inhumane, and you can bring them to people, and they'll still go like, well, I love the well. You always hear the well thing. Well, that may be one example, but there are other people who are kept in jail because of cash bail, and it's so unfair, and it's so white privilege. It's like they literally are so brainwashed that they cannot see, no, there are dismembered body parts. Like, people are dying. You can't understand that people are dying and murderers need to have to put up bail as a financial incentive to go back to their trial. Like, you can't get that. You can't get that it is just untenable with our resources and with our laws to allow 7 million legal immigrants to come into this country. You can't get that Democrats are using this in order to get more votes so as to have them counted in the census so that more, electoral college representatives will be allocated to blue states. Like, you can't get this. And people, you see them in that brainwash. And this is what Yuri Bezmenov is talking about. So let's look here at a picture. I see that Sean wants to cut in. Yes.
Leo? Yeah, I was going to throw up the picture of Don Lemon being confused,
well,
I thought it fit perfectly for what you were talking about.
Well, I actually have that video. Can we play that video? This is yeah. That's the what face? Yeah, let's play that video. This is from the interview a few days ago. We have it.
We made the special shot there. Yes, we do have it, but it takes a second to get it, and so I'm going to keep stalling while Alejo gets it. Go for it.
When the census is done, the census is based on all people in an area, whether they are citizens or not. So if there are a concentration of people who came here illegally in a particular state or in a particular state, that state will actually then get an increased number of House seats. So the House seat apportionment is proportionate to the number of people, not the number of citizens. This also applies to electing the president, because the electoral votes are also done by apportionment the same way that House seats are done.
But the reason, Elon, the Electoral College is in place is to balance that, is so that doesn't happen. So what you're saying about it is the exact opposite of the reason why the Electoral College is there. The Electoral College at this point, in our history, gives people who are in smaller states and red states much more of an influence over our elections than people who are in blue states, and the majority of the people in this country. That's what the Electoral College does. It actually does the exact opposite of what you're saying. It protects people who are in smaller states and protects people who are in red states.
Well,
the red states, because they tend to be smaller and less popular.
Okay, so what's going on here is that Don Lemon is not understanding, or maybe he's feigning to not understand, Elon Musk's point. And he's right when he's talking about the Electoral College, which is designed to give representation to smaller, less populous states. He's actually right about that, but that is not the point. The point is that Elon Musk is saying that this illegal immigration, I'm calling it a crisis, is this whole scheme, illegal immigration scheme, is being used to increase Electoral College seats for blue states. And again, Don Lemon is either not understanding or feigning not to understand and, ignoring his point.
I'm having an aha moment. I think I've stumbled onto something, and I don't know if it involves left and right, but it seems to me in this world there are a couple kinds of people. People like yourself, like myself, like Mr. Prager, who seeks clarity over agreement. You see truth. You effort to see truth. There are people who see what they want to see and then make that the truth. And those are the people that you're calling brainwashed, who can't understand facts when you put it up in front of their face.
Absolutely. A lot of it is they see what they want to see. But I think a supplementary part of this is that they're being encouraged and educated to see what they want to see. Human beings have proclivities to not see the truth and see what they want to see. But the role of society and education used to be, no, let's orient us closer to the truth. But now it's indulging our impulses.
Society, education, and the algorithm. Your algorithm feeds you what you watch. You don't see the other side.
Right.
It doesn't pop up in your feed.
Yep. Well, that's by design. So again, Don Lemon is just classic example of just not being presented with the fact and the facts and just not understanding. So let's look here at this chart, the 4 steps of ideological subversion. So this is allegedly from Yuri Bezmenov in the 1980s, from a 1980 video. I got this chart from Unintended Consequences. Their website has a big spread on Yuri Bezmenov in this. But this is either Yuri Bezmenov's summary of the 4 steps of ideological subversion, or Yuri Bezmenov like literally got it when he was in the KGB from the Soviet Union. Unclear, but this is from Yuri Bezmenov. So the first step, just to quickly summarize the 4 steps, the first step is demoralization. And he says that it takes between 15 to 20 years. And demoralization is essentially demoralizing us, and not just in the sense of making us jaded, but literally unraveling our sense of morality and our ability to distinguish between good and evil and right and wrong. Like decoding, unraveling the moralization of society. And so this is done through, the media, through teachers and educators, becoming sympathetic, according to Unintended Consequences, to the causes of subverting a nation. This is how they put it. Basically, like teachers in the media no longer being pro-American, but being sympathetic to communism. Sounds familiar. Being sympathetic to regimes who hate the United States also sounds familiar. And according to Unintended Consequences, Yuri Bezmenov said that the Soviet Union was surprised as to how easy it was to achieve this demoralization. So demoralization, step 1 for 15 to 20 years. Step 2 is what they call destabilization, where they target the countries, again, according to Unintended Consequences, it summarizes all of this. They target the country's, quote, foreign relations, defense, and economy to try to destabilize those entities. And we're seeing it now, that we are massively in debt. Many of our military, for instance, is incredibly woke. I've done shows here where I talk about the new speech codes in parts of the military, which discourage people from using terms like sergeant because it's offensive to those who aren't sergeants, discouraging people to use gendered terms. There's been a massive destabilization of our entities here in the United States. And part of that is self-inflicted, but another part of it is this ideological subversion. Step 3 is crisis, where there's 6 weeks, roughly, they say, of some big event that really marks a turning point in our way of life. And then step 4 is normalization, where the new status quo, whatever that is, perhaps even military intervention, is happening and accepted. But the main step to get people there is demoralization. And by the way, this is from the Soviet Union. By the time Yuri Bezmenov in the 1980s was exposing this, the demoralization process was already underway, and some say was already finished.
You're making me think that event could have been George Floyd and the BLM riots, and the intervention was the COVID lockdowns.
Yep. No, it's a very astute point. You're right. It's hard to tell if that's already happened or if even something greater may happen. Boy, do I hope not. But I just want to show you this chart again because let's look at the demoralization process. It is it's hard to see, but I have it here. The words they use. So the targeted areas they say are religion, education, media, and culture. And then they have this methods section, which is right in the middle. And look at what they say. Politicize things. And they have also permissiveness, relativity as one of their stated methods. That is so true. Right now we have this moral relativity infecting our nation where we don't judge good and evil. We judge oppressor versus oppressed. We judge, power structures, whiteness, heteronormativity. That is relativity. Also, according to the methods, it says manipulate, discredit. Totally. Look at religion, for instance. That's been manipulated. That's been discredited. Culture's been manipulated and discredited. Education, they also cite, has been manipulated and discredited. It's right here in front of us. And then they have results. This is what they hope happens. Ignorance, check. Uninformed myopia, check. Myopia, I should say, myopia. Uninformed myopia. Yes, you have this one, like, kind of laser view of things, right? And you are uninformed with that opinion, and you are unable to go outside of the boundaries of that one opinion. And then the other thing they say is addictive fads. Interesting. I would say drugs, certainly one of those. Frankly, this whole gender stuff, you know. TikTok, absolutely. TikTok, yes. But my gosh, I'll show you another part of the results category just quickly, and look this up online. Unintended consequences, again, is where I got it. And you can look at the chart. Results. Mistrust justice. I mistrust justice. Don't you, Sean?
Yep.
Look at what's going on to Donald Trump. Government. Elections, totally. Look at the 6 pro-lifers who are facing 10.5 years in prison for trespassing on an abortion clinic, which was against the law, yes, but worthy of 10.5 years in prison. That's insane. I don't trust justice. How about this one? Less individual response. Yes, when acts of misjustice or injustice, happen, we don't respond appropriately. Defenselessness. Check. Disunity. My God. Probably the biggest thing we have. And then isolation. They've done it. They've really done it.